going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of What Are You Scared of Something? Episode 5.
5.
The movie that started it all.
Yeah. Woo!
What's it called?
It's called Seal Adventure 6.
H-E-R-E-D-I-T.
Hereditary.
Woo! Yes,
Yeah.
that is it. That's what we got for today. The movie that started it all. Why is it the movie that started it all? If you watched our introduction video, you probably heard a little tidbit about our horror origins. Hereditary played a big part, didn't it, Brendan?
Hereditary was the one that, it just gave us a new outlook on horror movies.
Yeah, it sure did. And Brendan showed it to me, and I was pretty affected by it. Felt used,
Abused.
felt gross, but for some reason, I kept
Coming
chasing
back.
that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
That's
why.
a good way to put it.
It's
Why
like-
do we chase that feeling?
I don't know why. Yeah, it's definitely something. Any psychologist out there, let us know why we chase that. Yeah, because it's something like we were talking about in our first episode, Ghost Main. You're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
And you're like, I gotta see more. It's just fascinating.
Yeah. No, yeah.
That group you told me about,
Which group?
the one that you just like, they're way out there, but you can't get enough of it.
Oh, yeah. I can never think of their name.
It's like bad rap, though. Not them. I'm talking about like in general. Like when you
Ninja
hear
and
bad
someone
rap,
else.
you're like, God, this sucks. Or bad music in general. But I feel like some of the newer rap these days, you're like, man, this is terrible. But I'm going to keep listening. Why? I don't know.
Yeah, I forget the name of that group.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Whoa. That's a clucking sound. That'll come into play soon.
It's a clucking sound.
So Hereditary came out in 2018. This man by the name of Ari Aster hit
Adi.
the scenes, hit the world with something that we've never seen before, and it changed the horror game, I think, forever. I don't know if you could say that he's one of the original people too, but he definitely made a big impact. So this movie came out 2018, stars Toni Collette from Sixth Sense. She's later gone on to do Knives Out. What else is she in? Sixth Sense, Knives Out. The sequel to Knives Out, I think. I don't know.
No. Wait. She might have been in that.
She's another scary movie.
Did you see that? Glass Onion?
No.
No.
I didn't really like Knives Out.
Yeah,
I don't
it was
like
alright.
whodunits.
Yeah, it was alright.
Like I read Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. I'm like, sorry, just interviewing people.
Yeah.
Oh, they did it? Cool. All right.
Glass Onion wasn't bad, but it
So
wasn't,
Toni
like,
Collette,
fantastic.
and if you guys ever watched the Naked Brothers band, Matt Wolf is in it.
Matt
and he's
Wolfsky.
excellent. The dad, I don't know who it is. Sorry. Yeah, those are probably the only big names right there. But there's not a lot of characters because it's just the movie is set on a few characters. So yeah, came out a couple years ago. And I would recommend watching the trailer before you watch the movie. Why do you think I say that, Brendan? Does the trailer have any significance?
Only because, well, I mean, if you watch the trailer, you're going to think that the movie's one way, but it takes a completely different turn in the middle of the movie, basically.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to check it out and then be surprised.
Which is what we did. This is a movie that it was probably the closest I ever succumbed to peer pressure. I almost went to the theaters with you guys.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I did, but I love the reactions that you tell me of our other fellow friends.
Yeah, so I went and saw it in the theaters when it first came out, and I was with my buddy Bailey and Mr. Chris, and we saw the coming attraction, thought it was going to be something, turned out to be something completely different,
Aren't those the best?
and just so psychological, this horror movie, as opposed to maybe some other ones where it's just jump scares and creepy images and stuff. Like this does a lot to your psyche.
He has a lot that goes on. It messes you up. It messes up most people, but for my family, for some reason, I showed them. They thought it was the funniest thing ever, but I don't want to get into it. They're silly. So music starts off. It's pretty crazy in the movie. We'll dive right into it. Crazy music to start off, like you never heard. You're like, I don't think I've ever heard these sounds in my entire life.
Yeah. And some of them sound very uplifting, but then terrible things are happening. So it's very confusing again with backwards psychology with there, I guess, or whatever you'd want to call that.
I would love like Hans Zimmer or John Williams to do like one of these psychological horror movies.
Yeah,
because they are just. That's
cool.
probably definitely a challenge for them for sure. Whoever does the score is brilliant because it is just it sets the tone for the entire movie. A24 is great with that, with their music and sounds and all that stuff.
Yeah, they just get sounds that you just haven't really heard before. Something, crazy.
So the movie starts out and with the music, but like in the beginning, there's like these doll houses, kind of like these makeshift doll houses, and then the camera. I sound like Chicago. Camera. The camera pans to like a makeshift little room, and then it goes to a real life room. And they're getting ready for a funeral.
So we're at a funeral, and Annie, who is our main character, who was played by Toni Collette, her mother has passed away, and she is also making a speech at this funeral.
So right off the bat, negative. Depressing, uneasy vibes.
Uneasy, terrible.
I feel like usual movies, or like most movies, they're pretty like uplifting and like not scary. They're preparing you to get scared. This one right off the bat, you're like,
it's very dreary and just and I don't know, the vibe that the family's giving off too is just kind of like weird. Everyone feels like different, or it feels like they're kind of like holding in their emotions like really strongly or something. I don't know how to describe it. It's just weird.
That was the main theme of our last video, Smile. So makes the audience uneasy. Obviously, nobody likes funerals. So we see who's in the family. It's a mother, daughter, a father, and a son. Mm-hmm. And the daughter is like very quiet, and you could tell like something's up with her. And she sees a man in the distance smiling. Is that when she's at the casket?
Yeah, she's right at the mom's. The mom's mom is Ellen, by the way. Ellen, she's right next to Ellen's casket, and there's a man just like smiling at her, like so creepily too.
Yeah, really weird smile.
So yeah, there's that.
And
then they all have or the Anne has the same necklace on that her mother has in the casket as well, which is like this weird symbol. I don't even know. It almost looks like a brass knuckles kind of.
It does, yeah, because it's kind of like the loops. Yeah, that's a small detail to notice. You see that symbol throughout the movie. Then you hear these clucking noises that Brendan did earlier.
Oh yeah.
So again, that comes about throughout the movie. It was like strong symbolism in the beginning, I feel like. Just to like, I don't know, everyday life. Like it's immediately like relatable. It's one of those things where it's like, how do you write a good book or how do you start off a book or a movie? You capture your audience like right away. Stephen King does that very well. So there's some foreshadowing in the beginning when what's her name? The daughter?
Charlie.
Charlie is eating a piece of cake and her dad comes up to her and he's like, there's no nuts in here. She's like, mm-mm.
So now we know that Charlie is allergic to nuts.
Yes. So something you have to pay attention to. This is not a movie that you're on Instagram while the movie's rolling. You're not watching YouTube.
You gotta pay attention.
You're not reading some articles about some other nonsense.
How to lose weight.
Big gulps.
Keto diet.
Keto diet. Carnivore diet.
All the diets.
TikTok dances.
Whatever. All the diets.
All the diets. You got to watch the movie. I liked how when they got back, Annie like says to her dad, because she's not like sobbing or anything. She's like, should I be sadder?
Yeah.
And the dad's like, you're going to feel how you're going to feel. And I feel like that's so relatable.
Yeah.
To You know, a lot of people where they're like, they feel like guilty. They're like, wait a minute, like this person is like a huge part of my life. Should I be like sadder? And sometimes emotions hit people later, but which is very true.
And in Annie's speech too, that she tells to, I guess, loved ones of Ellen, she even says that her mom wasn't the easiest person, and kind of almost like, my mom was like, she was all right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you could kind of see how maybe like Annie's reaction to the funeral is, she doesn't know how to feel because she's like kind of confused because maybe her mom and her didn't really get along. I think she says as well, like, and I think it turns out also that her mom like had some issues psychologically, and of course it runs in their family and stuff. So, so she's a little confused as to how to feel.
So I think she asks her husband that, but she already knows the answer. She's like, should I be sadder? It's like, well, you don't really get along.
Yeah.
We find out a lot more about Ellen and Annie's relationship. Annie makes these weird houses. This is her hobby. I feel like it's an interesting way to cope.
Yeah.
She's definitely doing that and like holding things in for sure.
Yeah. She's able to express herself through these art houses and stuff, but they start to get really dark all of a sudden too.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, a small minute detail when they head back from the funeral, you notice that the dad says, everybody's shoes off, and just like, it's so small, but like in a chaotic world, like you try to stay as in control as possible, just in the world in general, because everything's random. So that's why you clean up after yourself. You take your shoes off. You do all these little things to stay in control. But then as we go on throughout the movie, they kind of stop doing that. They just start walking in the house and it's again such a small detail, but it just kind of shows like them losing touch with the world.
For sure. Yeah. And just because they're like, I don't give a damn about these shoes, all this craziness is going on. But it's a good point that you made, because it's like, in face of tragedy or and grief, when you're trying to move on, stick with your routines.
Yep.
Just so you can like stay on a good track, so you don't get, because then if you start breaking away, you're like, it's very hard to get back. So the daughter Charlie sees grandma. Oh, excuse me. She says that I don't know. This is a couple scenes later that grandma wanted me to be a boy. You're like, oh, okay. Well, that's not good. You're like, all right, Ellen, and already
like,
we see an unease. Yeah. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? She loved you. I was a tomboy when I was young.
Yeah, she just said that. Already we see like unease with the daughter and questions about who the grandmother was, like right off the bat. Yep. So Ari Aster is like trying to give as much background as possible, but also not trying to give things away too quickly. And you right off the bat, you're like, and this is if you watch the trailer, you're like, the trailer is mostly about Charlie. So you're like, okay, yeah, she's the main character. Well, we'll get to what she's not.
She ain't.
Ellen's apparatus appears for a good 5 seconds. Very creepy. Annie turns away the house that she made.
Her apparatus?
Yeah.
Like the apparition.
What did I say? Apparatus. What the hell's that?
I don't know, but I've heard that word.
I feel like that's the right word. Apparatus.
Maybe. I've heard of
apparatus.
I've heard of apparition. And apparition is like a ghost, basically.
The technical equipment or machinery needed for a particular activity or purpose. A complex structure within an organization or system. Okay, so I meant, what word did you say?
I said apparition.
That's what I meant. Okay. Yeah. So her apparition appears. Remember where she's, the mother, Annie's just looking and her mom's just like right there. It's a good 5 seconds. And it's not like a quick, like, it's a ghost. And it's like
she's
in
like
and out.
She's just shadows. Like, for a second, you kind of have to go, what? Wait. Am I looking at that correctly? Is there someone standing there?
Right. But if you count to like 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's just standing there. And you're like, all right, this is really creepy.
I actually wrote here that that I personally I don't think that Annie's dealing with her trauma of a loss correctly. And seeing her mom could possibly be early signs of psychosis or schizophrenia, because maybe she isn't there. And then generally when like for example, I know in like The Walking Dead, right? Like the main character, I always forget his name, but
Rick.
yeah,
Rick. I don't even watch.
He loses his wife, and he goes into a state of psychosis, or where he starts seeing her everywhere, and he's like going crazy, and
That's awful.
and because the loss is just so hard on him that his brain just switches into a psychosis type state, and so I had a theory that perhaps that maybe she's starting to slip into the state like that, or schizophrenic, and that's why like this movie is like so interesting, because it could be, a couple different outcomes as to what the mom's seeing, and like does it have to do with apparitions and ghosts? Is this whole thing paranormal, or is it all the mom just like going crazy because it runs in their family?
Well, that's the thing we were talking about with Bailey last night, our friend. We were like, there are some movies where they're like, and these are a lot of general horror movies, there's like 1 to 3 possible interpretations of the movie. There are movies that are like 1,000. The Shining. There are any theory you come up with. This one, I think, is like more in the middle.
Yeah,
it's not like 1 or 2. It's probably like 6 or 7, and probably even more if you like surf the internet. But so then why like? So you say like, and we were talking about this in the last movie, Smile. You're saying how they're not dealing with trauma in the right way. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's hard to know. Well, especially for the younger ones.
Oh yeah,
like
big time, yeah.
Right. She's like, it's hard because it's like, is there a correct way? Probably.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. Maybe we give him a little time.
I also think that like maybe
that's quick,
because the grandma was she might have been schizophrenic herself or something, and so they're all like kind of confused. It's more like confused as to how to feel, and like yeah, so sometimes that can just cause like a lot of different stressors in the mind, just from, because you're just like questioning your own emotions and sanity, so even when they go into Peter's room, like the dad says, how you feeling, bud? And he's like, like everyone has that same reaction. They're all like kind of like, they don't know how to feel, and that's fine, but like sometimes eventually it's gotta come out, and then I don't think that they do it in the right way.
No.
Like Peter just smokes a lot of weed. Charlie, like I don't know what she's doing.
I don't know what she's up to.
She's cutting birds' heads off and shit.
Yeah,
and then the mom is just like,
she's pushing it away.
She's pushing it away, and then she also like, she like resents her mom a lot. Like,
oh yeah,
and that's just so unhealthy. Like to have that resentment stored up in here,
That's
and
awful.
And so I feel like, so she's not able to like cry or think about the death in the correct manner because she's like angry at her mom for whatever reason.
That could cause like physical pain too.
Yeah,
like just like trying to like shove things down or whatever. That could like become physical.
Oh yeah.
Like I was reading this book recently, and usually fathers of children that pass away, they are like, I don't know what the percentages are, more likely to die from heart-related problems because their like heart is actually breaking because they have to like stand tall for the rest of the family.
Yep.
Like they can't break down, or it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
even
yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
Also, when I just said that, when you were like, Annie's physically, or like she's in her mind, that's like stored in there.
Mm-hmm.
She's physically like pushing her mom away because right after she sees the apparition, she goes to her makeshift house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What, I don't even know what these things are called. And there's a figurine of her mom and her daughter, and she's watching over her with the baby, and she physically turns it around.
Yes.
So she's not only emotionally doing it, she's like, I'm not dealing with this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even worse.
That's way worse.
And like those little details are like what makes these movies so great.
Yep.
And I'm sure Ari Aster and the guy who made The Witch and Jordan Peele, maybe not Jordan Peele, he's just so talented in every different, in each ways. All these guys probably studied film.
Oh yeah.
I once listened to a podcast with the guy who made The Witch. Why can't I freaking think of his name? Is it Nick something? And Ari Aster, and they're both talking to each other, and they're just nerding out for like an hour and a half of like their inspiration. Of course, there are movies that I've never even heard of.
That's cool.
But yeah, so
Also,
The Witch. Hold on. Sorry.
yeah,
6.9. Who the hell rated that on IMDb?
I saw 7 for
That is crack. Not crack.
7.3 for Hereditary.
They're insane. The Witch is my favorite. That's Robert Eggers. That's it. 6.9 IMDb. What are you smoking?
It's 6.9 and a 7.3.
Hereditary and The Witch are at worst an 8.2.
Yeah, I was just gonna say around there. Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
it's got to be an 8 and up somewhere.
6.9.
The rapper.
I know you're gonna say that. That's ridiculous. Anyway, yeah. So in this figurine, she's watching over her with the baby, and I wrote it's like almost like she's checking up on the baby.
The grandma.
The grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she's just like this.
Oh yeah.
And
Is that when she's standing in the doorway in the?
no.
figurine,
This is
or-
the when it's Annie's holding the baby and the grandma's like this.
Oh.
It's looking like, and then she turns it around. This is
wow.
after seeing the apparition.
Yeah.
Which is so weird. Also, we have to remember Annie made all these,
Yeah.
which is weird because it's from like other perspectives.
Yeah. That's true.
It's very interesting.
That's cool.
Okay, so couple scenes later, Charlie's in class, and it's so funny because the teacher's like walking around lecturing, and a bird flies into the window, and it's like and you're just like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's probably one of the only jump scares. Charlie is literally just like this, just sitting there. So she's unaffected. So she's in another world
She's
right
like
now.
working on like some like almost looks like a robot thing made out of makeshift like an Altoid.
Yeah,
like,
she's not doing
cover
algebra.
or something or yeah. And she's not finishing her test either.
She's so far gone. So I made the note that she is. Wait, I make the note that she kind of is made to look. Oh yeah, she kind of is made to look like a boy.
Yeah.
So you're already like after she said that quote like a couple scenes ago, and then you start to like look at her her character, and you're like, she's not like a girly girl.
Yeah. No, not
There's
at all.
definitely a reason to that.
Yeah. And she is pretty strange, like what she's into and stuff. And then
Yeah, she cuts the head off the bird that flew into
she cuts the head off the bird. She steals her teacher's scissors and cuts the bird's head off, and then I guess adds it to the sculpture or whatever. Oh my god, that's disgusting. And now it's a pigeon.
That's some
serial early
Buffalo
signs.
Bill shit.
Yeah, early signs of a serial killer. Like just.
That's a movie we have to do. Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
I watched that with one of my girlfriends in high school, Sam Cunningham.
Shout out.
I remember that. That's funny.
High school. Damn. That's so. I watched that with Maddie.
Really?
I'm not even
Oh,
kidding.
shit. We didn't really pay attention.
Nope. But we
So,
knew that we were gonna come here and review horror movies.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. So the son, which is Peter, the way that these characters look are obviously on purpose. Everything in a movie is on purpose. When you study film, I sound so pretentious, but you start to realize that every single detail and second and sound and everything is on purpose. Nothing is an accident. There are some where are accidents and they're like, I'll leave it in.
Yeah.
Very rarely. He already looks messed up, Peter. Like he looks like he's been through the ringer. He looks worse as the movie goes on, but already like he is a high schooler. He's like a stoner, but like he like looks like he's not sleeping.
Yeah.
And his hair is like all messed up.
Yeah. He yeah, I mean I was trying to think.
Yeah, you could think.
Can I think?
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just like dealing with his own, shit, just trying to fit in high school and like isn't.
I hate touching our knees touched. I'm not a fan of that. Let me tell
At
you.
least you don't have shorts on. Then the hair's like interlocked.
Yeah, he's wearing blue on black.
The little hairs interlock when you touch knees with someone.
Hey, never do that again. No, I don't know.
You don't know about that?
No, I don't have an experience of that. Do you know that? Also, I forgot to add when she cuts the head off the bird, she sees a woman in the distance, like behind the gate.
Oh yeah, and she like.
It's not like a wave.
Yeah,
It's like a.
She puts up her fingers and just like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Charlie, how you doing? Hey, you cutting heads off birds now?
heard that.
That ain't it.
I can't speak.
So Annie's grief session is pretty heavy. The people around her are funny. So she goes to a like a group therapy for losing a loved one, and her character amuses me because she's just like, and Toni Collette's so great at this. She is like, "What? I'm supposed to go already?" She doesn't say that exactly, but she's like, "Me? Okay, I guess."
Oh,
And then she's like, I guess. And then she opens up.
"Oh my god!"
Like
She
a
spills all the
freaking
beans.
Leo Tolstoy book. Just opens up to every single page.
Yeah, she lets it all loose, and she lets us as the viewers know too that like mental illness is definitely like a huge thing in their family. Yeah, so Annie spills all the beans, and as the viewer we get to find out that mental illness runs deep in their family.
That's for sure.
I think she says that her mom was
What the fuck?
oh my god.
My Gatorade flung across the room.
Thought that was a poltergeist. God. So Annie spills the beans. She says that her mom, I think, is bipolar. I think when I read online too, it said that her mom also had multiple personality disorder, and then her brother killed himself in the mom's room, hung himself because he was schizophrenic and was hearing voices in his head.
So she's just had a great life up to now. That's awful.
Yeah, and I think
my
the dad
God.
did something too, like her dad.
Her dad, yeah. Well, wasn't he? Did he touch somebody?
Did he touch somebody?
Yeah, was he like that? I don't know.
I don't think he did that, but
I forget.
maybe he was also mentally. Oh, he was an alcoholic, maybe.
Yeah.
So
So she's had a very tough upbringing. And yeah, you're very into. There's a few things that like you're very into, and you're pretty expert on: animals, the body, and the mind. No, not so much. Well, the mind, but
not in like the science way. Like
not in the science way. In the psychological.
Yeah.
And Freudian way. So.
You know what's interesting though? Before we.
Whoa, 1 second.
Yep.
So, what I was gonna say is because you would probably say the way that she acts is definitely from her past trauma and the current state that she's in.
Yeah.
Because she unloads and lets all this out in the grief session the grief session, you could say. And I like how the camera like slowly pans in as she's getting she's crescendoing in her emotions.
Yeah.
And the people around her are like, "Damn, lady. Like, I lost a cat."
Yeah.
You lost everybody.
And she's also super closed off too. I actually wrote down her body language is terrible. She's like looking down and closed off, and which is kind of understandable because it's her first time at one of these things. I'd be pretty like nervous.
She seems like a vet though. She's a veteran at these things.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And also like from her upbringing, she probably isn't used to being able to tell her feelings, like how she's actually feeling. Because if she has a bad relationship with her mom, her dad's an alcoholic, her brother was schizophrenic, she had no one to talk to. So for her, it probably is kind of like.
And she probably doesn't want to burden her husband with it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he seems like we're really close. He seems like a cool guy and like pretty normal. Like he'd be there for her.
Yeah.
But maybe she was like afraid that like, God, what the hell's his name? Gary?
The dad's name?
Yeah.
I forget. Steve is his name.
Yeah, even I mean the most generic. She's like, God, Steve's so fucking normal. I can't unload. Hey, Steve. By the way, Dad's an alcoholic. Mom's in a religious cult, and brother hung himself. So.
You know what else is crazy? So before she goes to that meeting, she Jesus Christ, what is she doing? So one thing that's a little bit strange to me is again, this could either be paranormal, dealing with the cult, or psychological. So what I'm about to say. So she walks into her mom's room because the mom used to live with them for a little bit before she passed away, and there is a damn triangle on the ground that's like looks like it's burnt in.
Right.
And,
recently.
Yeah, and Annie just looks at it, goes like closes the door, and then goes away and doesn't talk about it.
Shrugs.
And then doesn't talk about it. And same thing with Charlie. Charlie sees someone in the field with a burning fire around them. Again, like cult-like, and doesn't say a word about it.
Right. That could be real.
And
Probably not, but it could be.
Yeah, that's why it's either paranormal, dealing with the cult, or psychological. Because then in my head I go, okay, so because I'm starving. Because in my head I go, oh, well, they're blood related. They're dealing with psychological issues in their family from the beginning. Are they just seeing stuff? Because Annie's seeing it, Charlie's seeing it, Peter starts to see weird stuff. Dad does not. Dad's holding it together, and he's not blood.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So
yeah, that's smart.
That's why I think to myself, like, maybe they're all going crazy.
Yeah, most likely. Because
and then they just shrug it off, like, and it's like,
well, because we're a normal audience,
yeah,
and we're like, okay, so there's a triangle in the room.
Yeah, like,
what's the deal with that?
we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to tell our husband that there's a triangle in the room.
I mean, maybe. I mean, there's so many like theories to like just that one scene because it could be like, there's no point in telling Steve, or this is normal, or this is the least of my problems.
Yeah,
because you know what? That's so weird because later in the movie when she's flipping through the book, she's like freaking out.
Yeah.
It's like you had a triangle in your room.
Yeah.
I mean, or unless she's just too naive and dumb to even know what that is.
Yeah.
Maybe Charlie's got a new project that involves drawing shapes on the ground. No, she's in like 6th grade.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And then I just wrote could it be like early onset paranoia or like something, because she also says to her husband, did you leave my mom's door open? And then he's like, no. So, just like a minute details, very subtle, but maybe she's, starting to get a little bit paranoid and like start to feel like a little weird because her mental is just not there.
But she's not going to show it. Yeah.
But yeah, she's just like kind of, again, shoving things down and just like, all right, I'm not going to tell anybody. We're not going to forget.
But I'm going to ask him this one question that's like, it could be an easy mistake. It's like almost like she doesn't want the answer.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. That's really interesting. I didn't think about that more. So let's see. So throughout the movie, you can tell that Annie really loves her family. And she's mad at the mom, but she's trying not to be and like more respectful because she's dead. And then you start to learn more of the weird stuff that her mom did and her dad and her brother.
Yeah.
During this grief session. So we already talked about was it the grandma that was burning in the yard, or was it just an old lady? We can't tell because it's the back.
Yeah, it's the back of them, but maybe it's the grandma, maybe it's someone new. I don't know.
So then we get to probably the worst part of the entire movie. Anything you want to say before that? Because the main scene is quickly after.
Yeah. I just wrote here that the dad is so far holding it together. So I guess in the middle of he's the only one that's kind of like keeping the glue of everyone together. So the family doesn't like fall apart from all this like trauma and weirdness going on. So he's kind of holding it together. But yeah.
If you put a heart rate monitor on me right now,
it
would definitely be increasing. Like, I'm already getting anxiety like thinking about the scene. So, okay. The next scene, or a couple scenes after, Peter wants to go to a party. And he's in high school, typical high school kid. And he like walks into his mom's room and she's making like her figurine. This is like her job, by the way, too.
Yeah. She puts them in museums or whatever because the guy calls.
She's quite good, but the things she makes are weird. I wrote down this is probably like the later scene's like the worst 5 minutes in cinema history. Because it's just so insane. Meaning it's so high.
The worst
intensity.
or the best. Yeah. The worst and the best, I should say.
There's so much going on. So Peter lies to his mom about where he's going. Typical teenage boy stuff.
High school barbecue. I'm going.
High school barbecue. Meanwhile, he's going to just a party with drugs and alcohol. And so you commented while we were watching the movie how awkward that scene is.
Oh
the dialogue between those two.
Yeah. Again, it's just like the dynamic in the family is so weird. Peter seems to get along with the dad better than the mom.
Yeah, I mean that's there's a lot of families like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's almost like he has to tell her because she, I mean, you got to tell your mom where you're going.
Yeah.
But he's just like, I don't know. I guess he sees lying as a better option.
Yeah.
Well, because he knows that she's gonna say no.
Yeah.
And
he wants to borrow the car to.
So karma.
Yeah. Literally.
So he wants to borrow the car,
and it's funny because they're all dealing with like feeling like grief, for their own actions and shit too.
But
Peter
he's trying to
eventually
move on.
about to. Because he ends up lying. So like, imagine how terrible he feels. But anyway, you go on. What's about to happen?
That's true. So they go to this party, but before that, Annie's like, "You gonna bring your sister?" And he's like, "Haven't asked." And she's like, "Well, why don't you ask?" And he's like, "Does she want to go?" He's like, "You gotta ask her."
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, I guess I'll bring her." And he's like, "All right, Charlie, you're going to this party with your brother." And they're almost like, because she doesn't have much dialogue, Charlie.
Yeah.
She's like, "You're gonna go to this party with your brother, okay? Okay." And it's like, all right, she's not 4,
and she doesn't want to go. She's like 14 or whatever, right?
Yeah, she's probably in middle school.
Yeah.
And she's like,
and Charlie's just saying no, like, I don't want to go. No, it's okay. And then
it's gonna be stupid.
Yeah.
And she's right.
Yeah. And yeah, but then eventually the mom's just Charlie's just like, okay, whatever. Succumbs to the peer pressure of her own mom.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to and she's just all in her own world because we don't really get to know what goes on with her.
Yeah,
and we'll figure out why. So they go to this party. Peter drives, and Peter sees this classmate, this girl that he really likes, and he starts talking to her. He's like, "I got weed," and she's like, "Great." And then they go into this room.
Her name's Bridget.
Yeah, so him, Bridget, and a couple other people go to the room, and Peter's like,
start smoking it up.
"This party's lame, but we're gonna smoke." You smoking yet? And then Charlie goes into another part of the. She goes into the kitchen, one of the part of the house, and there's cake. And Peter's like, "Hey, have some cake.
Just go have some cake, so you can leave me alone, and I could rizz it up with this girl over here and smoke some weed." And Charlie's like reluctant at first, but then she does. And then earlier when we get to the house too, you see them chopping up nuts.
Yeah.
And if you remember earlier, the dad had said to Charlie at the funeral, "There's no nuts in that," implying that she is allergic to nuts.
So Charlie didn't know that, of course. So she starts eating it, and you see her like the camera zooms in, and she's like kind of having trouble swallowing.
Yeah,
it's not hitting her yet. And then the scenes go on. Peter's smoking in the room, and also she's not only made to look like a boy, she has a boy's name. That's a quick little note.
Yeah.
So the grandma had some intentions, but she was mad she didn't come out a boy.
No.
Goodness. So she comes into the room, and she's like, Peter. She's like, what did she say?
My throat's getting big.
My throat hurts, or something like that. And he's like, all right, like you're fine. And then he looks at her. He's like, oh shit. Where she's just like starts. So she starts wheezing. So you're like, okay, all right. So to start off, she's not supposed to be here. Now something's going on. You're like, oh crap. So like Peter picks her up immediately and like drives to the car, and he's like sprinting. She in the back is full on cannot breathe.
Oh my God.
I said at one point, I was like, she's like drowning. I was like, why didn't he call like an ambulance? Well, I mean, the house looked like it was like in the neck of the woods.
Yeah. But also I was thinking to myself, Peter probably doesn't want to call the ambulance because then his family's going to realize that he lied and went to a party.
And the party would get busted, and he would look like a dick in high school.
Yeah. And that's more important than his,
unfortunately,
his sister.
Yeah. So she just like now like the music and it's intensifying. The music is going crazy. And he's flooring it. I mean, they keep going to the speedometer, and it's like 70, 80.
Yeah.
And he's like, at one point, he's at 100. And then all of a sudden, and folks, this is what, 20 minutes into the movie?
Yeah.
And he like sees a deer, and he swerves out of the way. And there's a pole, and so Charlie's head is out the window because she's trying to get air.
Trying to get some sort of air or something.
So you're just like, oh my God. And you're just like staring at the TV watching the movie because you're just like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, boom, head pops off. Head popped off. That's from Eminem. Evil deeds.
So can you hold this real quick?
Yeah. So let's show the viewers. So there's a deer in a dead deer in the highway.
So the deer's like over here, right? They're heading this way. Let's say.
Yeah.
This is Charlie's head.
This is a telephone pole.
And then yeep.
And it rolls. It rolls into the street. And then so you're just like, holy so like most people that like don't know and watch the trailer about it's mostly about Charlie. Charlie's dead, obviously. Her head just popped off.
Charlie is dead as a door.
And you just see all of a sudden there's just blood dripping down on the car, and you just see Peter's face. He's just he's like he is not moving, and you just like see him crying. And I remember being like, that is the most perfect reaction.
Yeah.
Because most movies and most people would think they'd be like screaming. Probably people would, and that's like that. Yeah. I'm sure that would happen.
I think
that is more of a.
This isn't meant to be sexist or anything, but maybe a woman might scream, but a man might just like be in shock, you know.
And he was in shock.
Yeah.
And I think he's so immediately his world is done.
Yeah.
His life is over right there.
He knows.
He might as well be dead because she wasn't supposed to go to the party, and
he lied to his mom.
And he lied to his mom for a deer. So when you think about it, when you know more about the movie, was that deer put there on purpose?
Yeah,
most likely. By
crazy.
Well, so like, what do we think? Like, the cult just knew where he was going to be and put a deer in or maybe the deer wasn't actually there, and it's part of their brain. Or it was, and
but then also that symbol that was on the mom's necklace is also on the pole. So could it be? Is there an actual cult? You know, you just don't know.
And they're pretty up to speed.
Yeah.
Like, follow. They're going to the hospital. Come on. Joanne, Kathy, Frank, go.
Send the team from the west.
Yeah. Send the team from the west. Get her head cut off.
Set up the deer.
So yeah, now you're just like, you as an audience are just like, this is the worst thing ever. And
so being that, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So I started in theaters, and I was with Chris and Bailey.
Yeah, tell me about their reactions.
And I don't remember Chris's reaction, but as soon as the head popped off, like if I'm Bailey and you're me, I just see Bailey just spring up, just mouth agape, just speechless, just holding his head.
Was it silent in the theater?
And it was just silent, and I'm just like, oh my God, I was not expecting that. I thought this whole movie was going to revolve around this girl, Charlie, and she's haunted, or she talks to devils or whatever, or something weird. And now there's none of that. So I'm like, well, there goes my theory with that. And now let's see what happens.
Theories. I mean, so she dies, and Peter just drives home and gets out of the car and goes to bed.
Leaves her decapitated body in the car.
And then what is not one of is the worst thing you will ever hear. You will ever hear as a person. You will ever. It's the worst thing you'll ever hear in your life. So Annie, the next morning, she's like, going out. Da-da-da.
And the camera's still on Peter's face, and he's just laying in bed.
He hasn't blinked since the his last bong rip at the party.
Yeah. And you just hear Annie just going out. I'm gonna go food shopping. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
You need anything, Steve? Nope.
I'm feeling good,
I'm finally getting over
my mom.
And then she goes out to the car and lets out the worst scream you'll ever hear in your entire life. It is so blood-curdling and just, it's a gut punch. It's horrific. And you put yourself in their shoes and you feel horrible about yourself. And you're like, well, this movie's just fucking crazy. Oh. You do the cry for a bit. He always does it.
When she goes outside, you just hear her just like, what? and then
there's scenes that just, and it's, I muted the movie the last time we watched it because it's just so horrible. And it's probably a good like 5 minutes of her just crying and wailing and screaming.
And
you will ever hear.
You will ever hear. And then there's the one scene where I guess it's nighttime now, and then and you just see Annie just on the floor, just like pounding the floor. The dad's trying to like help her feel better. I guess there's no possible shot of that, but she's just screaming, why, and
bad.
Peter's just standing in the hallway, not moving, just listening to it, and he's a wreck.
It's awful, and it's like if you have any empathy or any emotions, you will be very affected by this.
Which we do.
Yes. And where I can't even get through it. And we see, she's screaming, and you see that's a really cool shot when they do the body getting lowered into the ground, Charlie's body at the funeral.
Yeah, she's also wailing there.
You could see they made like a clear visual of the ground and the body and the casket going in. There's so much detail.
She builds that into like one of her houses too.
Fucking probably. She's so weird.
Well, she has the one house when you first walk in the door, and then all of a sudden there's like 6 houses piled on top of each other with dirt, and it's just, I don't know what that's about, but it's crazy.
Very weird. And then it's like your 6th time watching it.
Yeah.
And even you're seeing new things.
Yeah.
And
now, of course, the mom has to deal with 2 losses.
Right. And like I said, we're like half hour in.
I also wrote that perhaps maybe now this will trigger Peter's psychosis / schizophrenic state, because again, like the first one didn't affect him because it's just like his grandma and he's like a teenager and he's like, whatever, But
Right.
this one, he literally kind of did it.
And caused it.
And now that's like a massive trauma to him, and
he's already not.
He's going to throw up.
He's already not. He already doesn't have a good relationship with his mom.
Yeah.
Can I use that charger? Wait, no, never mind. My notes are in here. And so now he already doesn't have a good relationship. He killed her pretty much.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, my life's over, and my relationship with my mom is over, and no, I mean, I'd freaking turn to a cult. I don't know what I would do.
God, oh my God,
I would end it. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
awful. And so go on.
So I thought that maybe because of this, now this trauma that really affects him, it might. I wrote down that you might start seeing schizophrenic / psychosis state starting in Peter, or at least early signs of it.
Psychosis now. Start. Go. And they're off. So
Annie's already got a really good head start. Peter's coming around the corner now, though, with his psychosis.
he already might have had it when he saw the deer and cut his sister's heads off. So the next couple scenes go by, and then we have the famous, brilliant dinner scene. So them 3 are at the dinner table, and they're just quiet, and all you just hear is clink, clink of the utensils hitting the plates. And Peter turns to the dad. He's like, "It's really good, Dad." He's like, "Thanks, son." And
Thanks. That's like the first time you see them being a normal family, too, for like a split second.
Right. And she's so bothered by that.
Yeah.
She hates that. She's like, he's like, "What? I can't tell him his cooking's good." Dad?
What, should I say it's bad?
Yeah. You know what, Dad? This is crap. And this is really good, Dad. Thanks, son. I mean, it is like very cookie cutter. And she's like, your sister's head popped off. So what does he say when she, I think she makes a sound?
What do you smirk? Peter's like, what are you smirking at?
And no, she says that about him, I think.
Oh, really?
Or I think he was like, what's your problem?
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Which is the worst thing to
And then
ask.
Annie goes, what? I don't have an issue or anything. And
he's like, and we were like, shut up. Peter, shut up.
Peter's just like, yeah, you do. Like, you just like, whatever, smiled or whatever. Like, if you got something to say, just say it. Get it off your chest.
You got something to say? Just say it.
Just say it. Just fucking say it. And then Annie just goes off.
Yeah, she like stands up.
Don't you scream at me. I am your
mother.
Yeah.
Don't you raise your voice at me. I am your mother. And his face is just, he's very good at like still face.
Yeah.
He's just,
He was terrible and old.
Oh, he was in that.
Yeah.
Are we gonna review that? We could do a shitty review.
God, it's the worst movie of all time.
And
1.3 for comedy out of 10. I give it the 1.3 for comedy. That's it.
overall movie 0.7. Yeah, and then she's just like going off. She's just like, I'm so like, she's like, your sister is dead. Like, you got to get that through your head, and like,
because of you.
because of you. And
I
he's,
know you didn't mean it.
And
And I
I-
know it's not your fault. And I wish I could take the pain away from you. I wish.
It's very emotional.
Crazy.
And that's what I'm like, man, she should have won a freaking Oscar for
Oh
this.
my God, she's so good.
I remember reading articles about that, like how she was snubbed. Like, I didn't think she got nominated. But you know,
good. She's so good.
war movies, horror movies, not that I like them, but superhero movies. If you're not a freaking weird art movie, you're not going to the. You're not making
that's
it.
true,
You're not
that's
making a
true.
nominee at the
Yeah.
Oscars.
Hopefully horror will get in there.
That would be great. Yeah,
Soon, hopefully. Because, I mean, they're stepping up their game so much.
for sure.
And
I mean, A24 is just too good not to.
Yeah. Maybe Bo will do something. Because that's kind of... And then,
I was in the back barking.
and then what is it? Somewhere, Nowhere, Everywhere at this place 6,000 years ago. That's an A24.
That won
So
Best Picture.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, A24 doesn't just do horror movies.
Yeah,
but-
no, yeah.
No, yeah, you're right.
But, so that's why I'm hopeful that maybe one of them, like perhaps Bo, because I hear it's really weird. So.
well, Parasite won, and that was pretty.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
No, I still haven't
My
seen that.
God, it's so good.
You could show me that
It's
one.
unreal. So yeah, she that scene's nuts, and he's like, well, "What about you, Mom?"
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like, "What?" And she's like, sits back down. So she just like, she unloads, and he's like, "She didn't want to go to the party. You made her go."
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. And now Annie's just like
you're
I
unreal.
can't even do it. She looks like a character from Monsters Inc. That little like snake looking one. He's like the bad guy in the movie. Anyway, anywho,
and and the dad's like, all right, like let's just like
both
relax
of you,
here.
stop.
He's I like to call him Switzerland of,
No,
of the movie.
yeah. He's right in the middle.
Yeah, he's Switzerland. And they're freaking China and Russia.
Yeah.
My God. Yes.
Allied and Axis powers just going at it.
Axis powers.
Switzerland's like, guys, can we just like relax for 1 second?
Just everybody just chill. So then that happens, and then a couple scenes later, Annie is food shopping, and go.
Sorry. I wrote for that scene. It gave me a feeling of like almost like a play, because like it pans out, and then the mom just goes, "Fine, and then she walks off
Right.
Of the scene.
And it's still the camera's still on Steve and Peter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you walk off set and like the music kind of stops, and then I don't think there's music in that. There's nothing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's just her going off.
And that's
And
why
the-
we can hear the dinner plates so well.
right.
I think.
And the dialogue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean a lot of it's like a play, because the way that like the camera goes with the makeshift houses and stuff like that.
Yeah. I also wrote before the dinner too. Remember, Peter has like a huge panic attack while they're like smoking weed under the.
that was
So that was just like another thing of like, oh boy, see here goes his mental.
And he cries like a baby.
like a baby.
My God. Hold my hand. That's how he cries. It's unbelievable. Hold my hand. To his other teenage male friends. And they're like,
They're talking about girls and stuff, and he's like,
that one girl was hot. And he's like, oh my God. Hold my hand. And yeah, so then Annie's shopping, comes out in the parking lot, and wait a minute.
Where am I?
Hold on, I don't want to like. Is the next scene when she goes to the Ouija board?
Yeah.
But when is the scene when she sees
Joan.
Joan in the parking lot? When Tony Collette's driving.
So she was about to go to another meeting, and then she like decided not to go in for the second time.
Yeah,
Like,
but when does that happen?
It was after Charlie's death because
Right.
Charlie is dead. So.
Because she then sees her in the parking lot.
So this woman Joan came up to Annie, and is trying to was trying to coax her into or convince her to come into the anonymous meetings for losing a loved one, and
Because she lost her grandson, I think.
or she claims she claims she
right.
loses her grandson, and so she's trying to get her in, and somehow like Joan she kind of like knows her, I guess. I mean, we know that she definitely knows her, but Annie doesn't know that she has any affiliation with her.
No, I don't think. I think she's just like a random person.
Yeah, to Annie.
Yeah.
And then so now
Also, sorry, she's telling Steve that she's going to see a movie.
yeah, so now
She's lying.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I guess
Which
Yep.
which is weird though. Like she's underestimating Steve. I think not telling him about like her traumas. Well, I mean, we assume that he doesn't know. Maybe he knows because it's his wife. But like, why lie to him?
Yeah.
Like he's Mr. Switzerland.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's weird. Like
She's almost like embarrassed of her emotions, or just wants to hide it. She just wants to shove it down.
yeah, she like wants to not even talk about it
Don't
with
put
the
a burden on anyone else that loves me or something. I don't know.
Weird. What were you saying?
But then I guess so. Now after the scene, I guess we are at Anne is shopping, or she's just gotten done shopping, and now she's in the parking lot and sees Joan again.
Yeah, she's like Joan. She's like, oh my god, you have no idea what. Wait, does she go to her house?
Yeah, eventually.
Don't they go twice? Does she go to twice?
Yeah, she does go twice.
So the first time,
they do a seance with this cup. And Joan teaches her how to conjure up a spirit of a loved one.
oh, I see.
quotes.
Okay, now I'm understanding the structure of my notes and where we are in the movie.
And so she teaches her how to do this ritual that conjures up her loved one's spirits. And so they talk to her deceased nephew, was it?
Grandson, I
Grandson.
think. Yeah.
And this is freaking Anne out, though. Like, she's so scared because you see a chalkboard writing by itself, and this cup is moving, flames are, going out, and the candles around them and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a freaky seance.
Annie's
thing.
very emotional.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But I wrote that perhaps Joan may be conjuring Payman and tricking Annie into thinking it's really her deceased grandson at her first seance.
so Payman is one of the 7 kings of hell or whatever it is. So yeah, that's
And the cult that we find out, that the Annie's mom was in is trying to conjure him up.
well, that's a big part of Christianity and I guess like say Satanism or whatever is like tricking people that are good, like Adam and Eve and the apple and tempting Jesus in the desert for 40 days.
Yep.
It's all about like trickery and because none of this could be true, which is most likely. So Annie's good at acting very uncomfortable. It's very believable, her actions very relatable. But on our way home, she hears
Oh yeah.
yeah, which is what the daughter was hearing after the grandmother's funeral. So I'm trying to think of when she's in the parking lot.
When she's in the parking lot.
So they do this like Ouija board thing, and that like after the first time seeing her,
They do it after they're in the parking lot after Annie's done shopping, and
okay.
it's just like a cup, and you put the cup here,
right?
and then
And what's
put
with
your hands on it and do something else.
the doormat
Oh, the doormat matches
to Joan's house?
is the same knitting style, I
Like
guess
design,
we call it,
yeah.
and design that was in Annie's mom's belongings once she's passed. Obviously, you take your loved one's belongings, and so Anne has seen this type of carpet before, and she says to Joan, "Oh, my mom has one just like that." So now we can kind of infer maybe that Joan is in cahoots with the mom, and there's some sort of like cult type deal going on. Something's going on. Something's
Right.
fishy.
I'd say so.
Codfish, tuna fish, fishy as hell.
trout, all of them. Now Annie is seeing and hearing lots of things. Starts seeing bugs. She's hearing the clucks. She starts seeing people. I mean, she saw people early on. When I mean seeing people that aren't there. One of the other later scenes, she sleepwalks into Peter's room, and she goes, "I never really wanted you as a son." She like covers her mouth.
Yeah.
And she basically tells Peter like, the mom, Ellen, forced me to have you. And we seem to learn that the grandmother like controlled her family. Like we're getting more and more information about that. And we can assume that Charlie was given. I already said this, but as a boy's name. And then this is then in a dream, but could be true to what she was saying.
When she says, "I didn't want to have you," that was
Right.
part of the dream. That,
Yes.
And, yes.
Yeah.
And is that when they are wet?
Yeah. But like a quick note about that is like, I feel like dreaming and being drunk are similar. You think things that you might not say or do in real life, or there could be stuff like deep inside you. I don't really think dreams mean a lot, but they could. There are people that would argue otherwise. But like people usually say you say things more when you're drunk. So like maybe in this dream state, like she would never say that out loud to Peter. Where she's like, I never really wanted you, or I never really wanted a son. Like my mom made me have you.
And again, it's just more guilt. It's more guilt.
It's
that's
unbelievable.
Just being built
piling
up.
on. So they're wet. Yeah, describe that scene.
So
the same scene, like
that
they're
same scene when Annie's having this dream and she says, "I never wanted to have you," and then Peter starts crying like a baby. Why would you do that then? And then I don't know, but I love you now.
and they're just screaming,
They're like screaming, kind of, and then all of a sudden, like they pan to Peter. Peter's soaking wet, and then they pan to the mom, and now she's soaking wet. And you're like,
it's like they're standing in the rain.
We don't even realize that it's a dream. So like we're like,
yeah,
what?
Whoa!
And then all of a sudden, like fire, just like
spontaneously combust.
Yeah, there's just fire around them, and they spontaneously combust. And I think we can assume it's probably like kerosene or something to light people on fire. Because I think she admits to somebody to Joan that she like woke up one day and had matches in her hand or something.
Really?
Yeah. And almost lit the house on fire, or maybe even Peter on fire.
So what do you think the water symbolizes? Why do you think they're wet? Like why is she seeing them wet in the dream?
No. That's like kerosene. Like so they poured. So it's probably not water. It's probably kerosene to,
I get it.
Light them up.
Oh yeah. I see.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. And that scene's like I feel like it's kind of slept on because that's really that's
Oh,
scary because you don't know what's going on and we don't know that it's a
horrifying.
dream.
That's true. Yeah.
At first, and then of course she wakes up and it's like, oh, thank God that wasn't real.
So then Annie, when Joan sees her in the parking lot, she's like, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but like I talked to my grandson, blah 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 blah. So then in the middle of the night, Annie wakes them up to do a seance. And she's like somewhat comedic how she's like doing it. She's like, "Come on, guys, it's fun. Let's try it.
Yeah,
let's just try it." And they're like, "Annie, like, come on."
But it's weird because she was so scared about it, and then all of a sudden she just wants to do it.
Right, it is pretty quick.
It's like, like, whoop, is this like a multiple personality disorder? Is she being like, is her
She's being
bipolarness
drawn to it, I think.
Is something happening? Like, or is it paranormal? You know, is something drawing her into it? We don't know. It's crazy.
Or it's just her being like, just like, oh, come on, she's not really dead. Oh, this is a way to get into it. It's like, I did think this is weird, but like now that I think about it even more. But you are right. It's like very quick. It's like the next scene.
Like, what the hell? Also, at one point, Annie, I wrote, she destroys her sculptures that were due for the museum, and I think this was a little bit before even this.
Right.
And Annie had been working on sculptures for a museum, and they kept calling her saying when they were going to be done, but she kept pushing them back, and then she ends up destroying them because I think all the pent up stuff is just emotions are getting the best of her, and she destroys everything. And I wrote down here that the one thing that she could control in her life is now completely destroyed, which just symbolizes like we're gonna go way. Even we thought we were already down the rabbit hole, we're going even further now because now you've lost control of the one thing that you can control to the minute, the smallest detail. You can paint whatever you want on these little figurines and everything, and now you've destroyed that.
Yeah, you don't even have that.
That's like for anyone who's seen like Uncut Gems, like there's little subtle things like that when there's a scene where Kevin Garnett is leaning on the glass and Adam Sandler just keeps saying, "Don't lean on the glass, don't lean on the glass," and of course the glass breaks. And then once the glass breaks, because that's the only thing Adam Sandler can control, in his life is his gems and stuff, shit goes down. And so same thing in this movie.
Well, it's interesting how like I always look at this. What I learned in studying film is like movies, especially like hour like 90-minute romantic comedies, have like this very literally you could like draw the plot structure how it goes. This movie's like it starts off low, and then like it kind of like gets like a little positive, and then like it's pretty steady, and then after the sister dies, which is like most of the movie. Her emotions are so weird to me.
Annie's.
They're non-linear.
Yeah.
They're just like we just said, she goes from like being uncomfortable and like there are some scenes where you're like, okay, I can relate. This is very weird. She's in Joan's house. She's like, this lady's talking to like somebody that's not there.
Yeah.
That's very relatable. Annie destroying her house. That's kind of relatable. She's frustrated. Shit's going down.
Yeah.
Then she starts doing a seance. You're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Which is probably like bipolar or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just her emotions are like, they're kind of like frustrating. You're like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
And so then I feel like that's felt in Peter and especially Steve, where he's just like, Annie, come on.
Yeah, there's just
Like,
no
what are we doing?
consistency. Everything's a wild card. And we know some people like that.
We do. Yeah, very frustrating to be around. Yeah, so she wakes them up to do a seance, and she does a big switch from Joan's house to now, and it turns crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it is just wild. And she's like very emotional. She's like, you got to believe me. Like, Charlie drew this, and they're like, Charlie's not fucking here. Like,
Yeah.
she's dead. Like, we got to move on. And it's like, it's just a regression of just like, you know, she died, and I was kind of moving on. Now we're going backwards.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a nice thought to, if there's a chance to talk to a loved one that's passed, but that's not, I don't know. That's not really a good way to.
It might be argued also that's not a healthy way to really deal with
no
it. Because now you're going backwards, like you said, kind of.
Right. Going back to things that are like, I don't know, comforting to you.
Like we could keep
You're not
moving
gonna grow.
forward. Yeah, exactly. You
Right.
could keep moving forward and, occasionally you think about them. But now Annie's like, no, we got to talk to Charlie. And it's just so random. It's like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. So Peter and Steve are like, you got to stop this. You got to stop this. Do you want to talk about that scene, the seance scene?
Yeah. And then so they're not believing it. And they're just kind of like,
Can we go to bed?
Annie, like, you're
Middle of the night.
You're scaring Peter. And Peter's like literally like, Dad, what the heck's going on with Mom?
Dad, please make her stop.
I just need some Wade. And then all of a sudden, like, she kind of like convinces them to like just kind of do it. So they put their hands on the cup, and then all of a sudden, the cup just slides across the table by itself. And Annie's like, "See, I told you." And then she's like trying to conjure up who she thinks is Charlie, and she's like, "Charlie, if you're there, can you speak to us?" And then all of a sudden, like the candle they have right there just like goes crazy or something. And then the glass, I'm pretty sure, falls to the ground. The camera pans down to the glass. Peter's crying, of course, like a little baby. And then all of a sudden, like you just hear the mom just like making this weird like, and then
They're like, Annie, are you okay?
And then Annie, are you okay? And then all of a sudden, like, Annie, are you okay?
That's what
What is that from? Oh yeah. Annie, are you okay? And then it pans up, and then all of a sudden, like, I guess it's supposed to be like Charlie's voice, like, comes out of the mom. She's like, "Oh my God, where am I? Who is this?
That is so weird.
Like, where am I?" And they're like, "Charlie," and
she's like, I don't know.
yeah, and
I
she's
think,
like
or something
crying
that.
and stuff, and it's just like getting weird. And then I think the dad like shuts it down at some point. He's just like, "All right, we've had enough."
Yeah.
Peter's like freaking out.
Yeah, enough of this game,
Yeah.
this show. Yeah, it's just very, it's all very weird.
And then they shut it down, and then like Annie's just like standing there like what just happened? Like, and everyone's just like,
I don't know.
I
And
don't
you
know.
gotta remember,
You tell us, Annie.
Yeah, you got to remember, it's like, this is already a movie that you have never seen. It's so unlike any other movie. So you're just like, that's why, like, when I'm thinking of back to when she started making those noises, it's just so weird. That's all I can say about it. Also, we could like talk about, because there's a theory of this movie that like none of this happened. None of this is going on. So like, did they really see the cup move?
Yeah.
I mean, Annie, did, but like, I mean, I guess like, well, so that actually happened, because Steve is not set on any of this.
Yeah,
he's so
like,
different
gotta
from them.
shut this down. Peter might have seen the cup move, but he's also kind of schizophrenic, possibly, or something.
Maybe this cup didn't even move, and Steve's just like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, like, what are you doing? And
Right.
like, why are you acting like there's a
daughter
person
in
inside
here.
you?
Yeah,
You
or
know?
that too. So we can infer that was payment inside of her, or somebody
Yeah,
was.
I'm gonna assume it's probably payment.
But I feel like he goes into her towards the end when she does that.
I think, in my opinion, I think that he's now in her, but he kind of lays low until
He's dormant.
he's dormant until like the Steve's demise.
Or it is Charlie,
Yeah,
or it's Ellen,
Yeah.
or it's like a not as aggressive.
because it's always
Hell
thought that
person.
like a lot of the D words, demons, always try to like.
Didn't Chris not want to say that after the movie?
I didn't even want to say
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
you don't have
I don't really like saying it too much. But they always try to like trick people, and then one of the forms that they always take is a child, because it's just so
Innocent.
and like you're gonna believe a child and want to coddle that child, just like how we want to coddle dogs and kids and stuff. Of course, so they take the form of like something so innocent, and then so in my opinion, I'm inferring that is Payman trying to trick everybody, and like or like we were saying, if this isn't true, then Annie's just putting on an act or a show,
There's so many theories.
because she's also multiple personality. That's a huge sign of multiple personality right there. If she's talking like Charlie, like
I think Steve is just like, I'll deal with this later.
yeah,
There's a book that I recently read called A Head Full of Ghosts, written by Paul Tremblay, and the main character of the book is this girl named Marjorie, and she's possessed, or like we think she's possessed. You have to read the book, and she's like 14, but it's interesting because there are some scenes where she's just like being normal,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, isn't she possessed? But she's like, these are like days and days, and then like later there's an exorcism, but like it's like, okay, so the demon's still inside you, but he's just like chilling for today. I don't want to come out, and then like, or at night he'll like go like the girl will go crazy because she's got a demon inside her. So it's interesting that like they lay dormant.
Yeah.
It's like they come out like it's like very carefully plotted.
Yeah, because they probably don't want a priest or someone to perform an exorcist, so or an
They're
exorcism.
gonna, well, it's all about tricking.
Yeah, so they gotta like sometimes be smart about it, I guess. Let me get ready. By the way, it was Sam's birthday the other day. Happy birthday, Sam!
Thank you.
39,000 years old.
Oh my God.
Looking good for your age.
Thank you. Yeah, 40,000 next year.
It's crazy,
Big
dude.
one.
As time goes by,
Yeah.
he's been around since Cretaceous period. It's crazy.
Play it again, Sam. Play it as time goes by. Casablanca.
Where are we up to?
Peter goes to class.
Oh,
And he sees a light.
Oh,
that
this
Charlie
boy.
saw before she died.
it's a weird light. It looks like a reflection off of like jewelry or something.
Or you do like one of those like you have like a mirror and you're kind of like bending in and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. 100%.
And get hold of me. I got doing this at the bar last night
Like flexing.
to the girl.
You're
and
triceps.
and they go, wow.
Wow, you're so strong.
I go, look. And so the light is like sort of science fiction-y, and it like kind of doesn't really go with the theme of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Not the theme of, or like the genre of the movie. It's kind of like, it looks like a kid did it
Yeah.
and was just like, I'm gonna play around with this.
Yeah,
and it's like an
yeah.
accident.
Yeah, it looks more like almost like an alien type of light as opposed to like paranormal. It just doesn't fit because it comes in a giant ring that like fits the whole room.
But then it gets
And then it
smaller.
gets small and goes into like a little circle thing, and then either goes into somebody or, I guess goes into the glass in this
Right.
scene.
Well, I think it's we and later can infer that it's a demon
Yeah,
because it's like
definitely. Or again,
going into something.
or is it just like an artistic view of like, this is Peter's gonna go downhill now.
Well, it's like I said, it's before they
die.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
So Peter starts to see things. There's a very disturbing scene. That's not yet. Very disturbing scene where he's sleeping and he like wakes up in the middle of the night. There's a lot of like seeing things that aren't there, like sleep paralysis or whatever. And he sees Charlie's head fall off, which is what happened earlier in the movie. Then something starts to pull on him from the back when he's in bed. And he's like screaming, and then he wakes up, and his mom's like, "Peter, what's going on?" He's like, "Why would you do that? Go away from me! Like, what are you doing?" She's like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like, he was like, "You were pulling on me." She was like, "No, like, I came in because I heard you screaming." And then she's like consoling him, and it's such a back and forth of one scene, Annie's crazy. The next, she's a normal mother again.
Yeah.
It's like, what the frick?
That's the multiple personalities.
Yeah, it's just like these inconsistencies. So he was dreaming. Or maybe not. We don't... anything's possible.
Yeah.
So then there's another scene after that where there's like weird drawings on a notepad in Charlie's room.
Oh, yeah,
just like sitting on her bed.
Right? Does it start?
Yeah, it starts to go by like the wind, like pokes. And it's like one of those things like how cartoons used to be made where it was like a kind of like claymation type where it's just like you move.
You flip through the little booklet.
And then it eventually will like show the story.
Looks like an animation.
And it's just like more and more. I think it's like a face like crying or something like that.
I think it's Peter's face with a crown, and then there's like his eyes are crossed out or something. And then I think they also show the pigeon's head or something as well.
Maybe.
With also a crown on its head.
Right. And then Annie then burns the book. Then her arm goes on fire, and instead of taking care of herself, she takes the book out because she knows that's how to stop the fire on her arm. Remember that?
Yeah.
When she like burns it, then
she goes on fire once she tries to burn the book.
but she like leaves her arm on fire.
Yeah.
Which is so weird.
She's like, whoa. Oh, God. Didn't know this would happen.
So then Annie goes to Joan's house to talk, but she's not there.
She's not there.
The one person that's like,
I think I wrote something.
because her family's not, they're all going nuts.
It's interesting.
Even Steve.
She would confide in Joan so much.
More than her own husband.
Yeah.
Somebody that she barely knows. Maybe because she feels a connection because she knew her mom.
Yeah.
And Annie's part of this. So the camera shows a bunch of weird shit at Joan's house.
Yeah, there's candles. There's pictures of the family, I think, with their
same
eyes
symbols.
like crossed out or something, and it's weird shit.
So you're like, okay, Joan's a weirdo. Same symbol as what the grandma wore.
Yep.
Which is that like brass knuckle thing.
Things. Yep. Also, it's very subtle, and you can only hear it if you have like good speakers. But there's this bass that plays in the background when Annie is on the way to Joan's house, and it's just kind of like a rumbly like bass, just going. And then as soon as she always gets to the door, it stops. In theaters, it sounded amazing, and it created so much more tension. It was crazy. But yeah, they're using an LFO on the bass that I wrote. That sounds cool. Also, I wrote that I think that the ritual that this cult is doing is complete because Joan is now somewhere else, and with the
there's
pictures
one
of the
final
family,
step,
and I think Joan knows too that Annie tried to conjure up Charlie, and so the ritual's complete. Now Payman is free to do what he does, which is buy ice cream for everyone.
Yes, that is exactly what he does. So then Annie starts to like. So now it's just like. Shit's just going down. It's just like all hell breaks loose from here. She starts going through her mother's stuff, finds all this weird shit, finds pictures of her and Joan. So she's like, okay, I knew it. They knew each other. The creepiest picture is a bunch of people looking at a photo of Annie's family.
Oh,
that is so weird.
Because when they flip through the picture, you see the photo like just in their house, I think it is, and it's just them. And then the next picture is dark. And there's like candles all around it, and there's like just these random people just staring at that photo, and it's like, oh my god,
this is the family. Like
that's
we
disgusting.
And what's interesting to note, what I was thinking during the movie watching this, is how in movies and in just like in not everyday life, in life we see how ugly and creepy we make figures in hell look. Like when she's going through the books and we see all these weird figures.
Yeah.
Like in Christianity, like Jesus looks nice.
Yeah.
And Mary is like the symbol of like mother, and there's angels and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but like, and then hell is just, they make these creatures look disgusting.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit. So then we go to the dad, and he's at work, and he gets an email, and it's of his mother-in-law, her casket being stolen. So he took a phone call earlier in the movie. We don't really know we know that it was like the grave was dug up. And then we see that her casket was stolen, I believe, or something like that. So you're like, okay, who did this? Probably the cult.
Or is it Annie?
Yeah.
Going into a weird
Which
state again.
Steve later, what's the word? Blames her. Yeah. And
You did this.
where he's just like, Annie, you did this. So then a couple scenes later, we're back in Peter's school. He's in class. Very disturbing scene. You see the light go into him, and he raises his hand like this, and it's like looks like his face is being pulling, and he's just like,
he's like stuck in that.
And they're like, oh my god, Peter, and they're just like, what the hell's going on? And he's just like this, and he slams his head on the desk.
Oh my god.
And he's like, his head is just like there, and it looks like somebody was holding him back.
Yeah.
And then finally slams his head.
Also, he sees his reflection in the glass to the right of him, and then when he like moves, it doesn't move, and it's just staring at him like this. And
it's like
so creepy.
Kind of gives him like a smile.
And I think the that blue light showed up again and went into the glass. And then it's just staring at him, and then that's when it's so creepy.
Yep.
And then
raises his hand. Yeah. Doesn't the teacher go, "Yes, Peter"?
Yes, Peter.
What
and then he goes, Peter. And then everyone turns around, and even the girl that he likes, I think her name was Bridget, is like,
she screams. Well, it's very relatable, and Ari Aster's really good at like making everybody else really normal and how people would react.
And they started filming Peter.
That was very weird
because he slams his head on the table, and then once he slams his head, it's almost like he woke up, and he's just like
he's screaming.
He's screaming so much.
Is there any music? I don't think so. I think it's silent.
I think during when he's like stuck, you hear like ominous, creepy music, but as soon as he snaps out of it, it goes away.
One kid probably would film it. Honestly.
Oh yeah, Chris.
Very weird. But so this is at the same time we're going back and forth of Annie finds her mother's body in the attic. And like I just said, this is right after. So disturbing. This is right after Steve got an email about the burial site being messed with, and it's surrounded by a million flies. And
it's rotten too, but the skin is black as hell. It's
and
gross.
if you ever seen Green Mile, the John Coffey character, he's like a Christ figure, and the way that he like gets rid of evil is he throws up flies. So I think flies are like a symbol or whatever it is.
Well, one of the
religion.
One of the demons of hell starts with a B. I don't feel like saying it right now. He shows up in the form of flies sometimes.
Right.
So
in the Green Mile, he expels evil, getting rid of these flies.
And they talk about that in the Bible, I believe, as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, religion and horror movies they intertwined,
baby.
So then we see the symbol, the family symbol, or
Yeah.
the cult symbol written on the wall.
Brass
the
knuckles.
music in that scene is nuts.
I don't remember.
It is. Oh, it's so good. You're just like, holy.
Okay.
A lot of violin orchestra. From here, I mean, I keep saying that after this, it's just all hell breaks loose. After this scene, after Peter in class and her finding the dead body, this is when mayhem we're just like, what the hell's going on?
I feel like it keeps taking a step up. In the craziness.
It keeps going, until like the final scene. So then,
because normally, like in you got that like triangle. It goes up, the climax, and everything comes down.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like there's multiple triangles. It stops here, and then it goes back up again, and then it goes back up.
Split second, and he's being a mother again,
Yeah.
and then she goes crazy. Excuse me. You feel for the dad the whole movie.
Yeah.
He's going through so much, and then after he gets the call about Peter's freak out in class, he like almost runs a red light, stops abruptly, and then he finally breaks down, and you're
cries.
like, okay.
I know that's he was the only one that was had a sense of sanity in that family, and now he's crying, and
He's the only
that's it.
sane one, yeah. So now we go back to the house, and he's just like, he's lost it too, but he's trying to keep his composure. Now he blames, like we said, Annie for digging up the grave. And now she's just like, look at this book, and I found like Joan, remember the woman that I was like, and she's just like going off. She's like, so the woman that I was with, you know, and like I found all these things, and the mats are the same as my mother's, and blah 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 blah. And he's just Annie. He's not listening, and she's trying to show him in the book. She's like, please, like, Steve, listen.
Yeah.
He's not listening, and she's just so distraught at this point. So she then wants to burn this book. What's the book of?
It's the drawings, I think. That there was Charlie's books that she would do the drawings in, because she goes, and then I saw this book that Charlie used to draw in, and it was flipping by itself, and we gotta burn it. We gotta get rid of it or something.
So then she wants him to do it,
because when she tried, she goes on fire for whatever reason.
But then what we said when we were watching it, it seems like Annie's saying goodbye to him, to Steve, which is very interesting, because it's almost like, yeah, she's definitely not 100%. Obviously, we know that, but like, she's definitely not 100% her. Well, bipolar is 50-50.
Yeah.
So it's like she's like, you're the love of my life, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, why are you saying stuff like that?
Yeah.
You just want to burn a book.
And the dad's like, Annie, we need to help you. Like, you're
not
sick.
well.
You're sick, Annie. And then she's just like, please, just put the book in the fire. I just can't see it anymore.
Right. Like, she kind of knows what's going to happen, subconsciously maybe,
Yeah.
or like because payments inside of her.
Yeah.
So we presume he's been inside of her since the seance, but we can even argue earlier. So then the dad gets lit up and goes on fire and dies.
When he throws the book
After he
in.
throws the book in, he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. Will this make you happy?
And then he just goes,
Oh, wait, no. He doesn't do it. She does. She takes it from him and throws it in.
He won't do it.
Right.
And she just goes, what? And takes it. And
She's like, I'll just do. And then she turns around and he's on fire. She's like screaming, but
his scream is kind of funny. I like it.
typical, like, just like a funny dad scream.
Yeah.
But we don't, like, the question could be asked, if he actually threw it in, maybe he wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
that's true.
because like she wanted him to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's very confusing. But yeah, so he goes on fire, and then all of a sudden, do you see the light go into her?
I don't know. Maybe.
So maybe it's another demon,
because she's just like, and then all of a sudden she just,
it's like she like,
yeah,
and her face is just like this, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, she's gone.
Yeah.
So then Annie's face shuts down, and so I did right. We do see that light that Peter and Charlie saw. Then we quickly see naked people around the house.
Yeah,
remember,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to like pause the movie because it's like very
It
subtle,
goes
very
from
quick,
day to night,
really quick.
Yeah.
If you ever see SpongeBob, when he's like, then it'll be night. That's what Peter's.
What
Patrick
episode is
says.
that? Oh,
When they're
the
walking
bus,
around
maybe?
10. When they're walking around, no, it's not that one. They're walking around town for some reason.
Oh,
in another part of
they're
town,
looking
I
for the clam burglar or some sort of
I think
burglar,
so,
and then
yeah.
he's like, he's in the mailbox because there's wanted posters of SpongeBob everywhere, and Patrick's like, doesn't realize that SpongeBob is the
He's
guy.
so dumb. And then you'll blow up.
He's in the mailbox. But anyway, it flashes from day to nighttime, and then if you pause really quickly, there's
like-
all these naked people like surrounding the house. And I found that out just from watching like a Things You've Missed video or something
Right.
on YouTube. But it's kind of hard to tell. But once you see it, like there are a
You
lot
can't
of them.
unsee it. Yeah. You're like, because you went to the TV and you're just like, there's that one, that one, that
I
one.
counted
You're like,
about
oh my
14,
God.
or there's definitely more than 14, but I counted 14 just quickly.
I bet there's a
more.
significant number on purpose.
Yeah.
What is it with Ari Aster and nude people?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it a lot more uncomfortable.
Because it's just unnatural. Like, you always see everyone clothed in public,
Right.
like it makes it that much stranger and weirder.
So then Peter is like, we probably assume that he's on meds or something because he is out cold. He's like, just, so he wakes up and sees red from the treehouse. And then we quickly see Annie like crawling up the wall.
Oh god, it's so creepy.
And then you like how that looks.
Yeah, I love the way it looks because it's just she's just like floating, and there's no sound, and like it doesn't look fake. It's so strange the way they do it. I love it though. It's no special effects really that that I know of at least. I mean, obviously they probably did something, but it looks so natural basically.
So this family can't catch a break because the next scene, Peter sees his dad's dead body,
Burnt to a crisp.
Well
done.
Then, yeah,
very well done.
Extremely well done. And then he like hears something and then turns around and then he starts running and the
he
mom
hears
is
a little
chasing.
creak, and then it's the naked guy in the house,
Yes.
in the corner,
Mhm.
and then he hears like a little, and then the mom just comes out of the corner because she was originally up.
She's
in the,
on the wall, like
she's
trying not to be
she's like
heard.
up there, let's say, and she's just like holding on, and then he sees a naked guy, and he goes, and he's like looks, and then he hears like a eep, and then the mom comes from forward from him, which is really scary because I expected her to like come from behind.
Yeah.
And she starts chasing the crap
And then
out of him.
immediately. Yeah, she's sprinting. You hear the like the music, and then it like there's the music starts going.
It's
like
so quiet.
It's like there's nothing, and then,
then
it's just boom, and it's just like off to the races.
Mhm.
And then I like how he calls out when she's so like Peter goes up into the attic and like he pulls the attic up because there's like stairs, and I'm like, why would you run up there? But I guess it's the nearest thing there.
Yeah.
And then she starts banging her head
That's
like
so
crazy.
creepy.
And
I
then
love that scene though. Like,
Oh, it's
the
awesome.
camera is, oh my god, and she's doing it so unnaturally fast too. Like,
It's
so,
it's
so creepy.
Unworld, it's otherworldly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
supernatural. And I like how he's crying out, "Mommy!"
Yeah.
Because like he's just I don't know. There's a lot of like babyish to him.
Yeah.
The way he cries and he's like, "Mommy, stop!" And you're
Mommy,
just like, "This is so creepy."
Ugh.
And then I feel like he feels innocent. He wants things to go back to normal. Maybe him calling her mommy will make it stop. I don't
Maybe.
know. He's just trying anything. He's so scared. And then we see Annie like floating, and she proceeds to start to cut her head off with dental floss.
Like a steel wire, maybe, or something.
This is one of my least favorite parts of the movie because
Also-
it's just so I'm not a gore guy.
Also, doesn't Peter see like a picture of himself with his eyes like gouged out or something?
remember.
in the attic. I think he might, because the Ellen's body, right? That's the mom's name.
Yes.
Isn't there anymore?
Right.
But there's still the flies up there, and then I'm
I feel
pretty
like there's
sure.
like a black mark.
Yeah, there's a black mark where she
was.
was. It outlines her body, and then I think in that outline there might be a picture of Peter with like his eyes like either crossed out or something. And then, and then Annie somehow gets in the attic, and then she's floating above, and you just hear like, and
Yeah.
she's taking we'll say like a metal wire, and literally just
The thinnest
trying to
thing.
saw her head off, and she's oh my god, her
The
face too.
expression on her face looks like she's back to normal,
Mhm.
but it's the end for her.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because she's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like she's getting choked. She's like, help. Like, basically, her expression says, I'm trapped, help me.
Yeah.
So you're like, wait a minute. Okay. So maybe payment has left her,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's just like, all right, we don't need her anymore.
Yeah.
The real person we want is Peter.
It's weird,
Um,
but it's like has kind of an expression, but almost like not. It has a little less of an expression too, because she's just
But her eyes are like
yeah.
buggy and open.
Yeah.
And to me, it looks like she's
Yeah.
scared and she's like, she's
It's just
trapped.
a weird.
It's
It's a
sickening.
weird face. It's
The
and then
music
there's
is-
blood everywhere, and then Peter's just like looking up, and then
The music's going crazy.
And now she's going faster too. You just like, and then he hears another creak, and then there's all these naked people surrounding him. He goes and then he jumps out the window.
The music stops. He goes, ah!
Yeah,
And the music
Jumps-
stops, and then all of a sudden, boom.
and you
You
keep-
hear
you-
the, Will.
Willie boy.
Yeah.
And then you keep hearing the her trying to chop her head off. Eventually, you hear it stop, and then you hear,
Yeah.
and that's her head.
But we don't see it.
Yeah,
but
you don't
we
see it.
presume that it's her head. So then he hits the ground, and then all of a sudden, like he's there on the ground for like a couple seconds, and then the light shines over his body, and then I think that's why I think Payman was in her, and then went to
yeah,
Peter.
maybe, yeah.
So there's two theories to this. Either he died, and then now he's like resurrected as a demon, and that's when he walks to the treehouse, or he just got hurt, and then now he's just like, he's still alive, but he's just like, so he's either dead and he like proceeds to just follow the cult because he's in it now, because Payman went in him, or he's alive and didn't die from the fall, but his world is just gone, that he's just stoic.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever, I might as well do this. So he either joined the cult by his own doing, probably not because we saw the light.
Yeah.
Or
he's just possessed.
He's possessed.
Payman. Payman has taken the form of a human.
I think hearing the mother's head but not showing it is creepier.
Yeah.
And is scarier, and is a great thing done by Ari Aster, because it's more unsettling, because you're like, oh shit, that was her head.
You're trying to picture like what it could have looked like, or what it
God,
is.
I could throw up.
Yeah.
So then Peter walks into the treehouse. He's lifeless and cloaking away.
And then one of my other favorite scenes too is you see Annie's headless body, just no music, and you just hear crickets and stuff, I think, and her headless body just floats into the treehouse.
So
that is the creepiest thing in the entire world, but I love it. There's no music, there's no special effects, really. It looks like she's just floating. It's so good. Love it.
And then there's a bunch of naked people surrounding Peter in the treehouse, and you hear Joan's voice.
Joan is
and
there.
You're like, yep, she's there. And she's like, you don't have to worry now, you're a Payman.
Yeah.
Which is very weird. And well, if you didn't especially if you're in the theater, you're like, I don't know who this Payman guy is.
Yeah,
most likely.
Yeah, I had to look it
unless
up.
You're a Satan person.
Yeah.
And then there's the classic Ari Aster music.
Oh,
that it's
beautiful.
Midsummer. Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's so unsettling.
Yeah,
it's like that. That music,
and you hear like the flutes, like, and the clarinets, the and then it's like,
it's beautifully creepy. It's like an epic, it's like it's the finale. That's really good. Yeah, that's it. And they're in the treehouse. He's surrounded by a bunch of naked folks. His family's there. The only person that's not there is Steve.
Yeah,
because he's not blood. They don't need him.
Yeah.
That's why they were probably just like, kill him. So this is the music is light, but it's creepy. But and then it starts to like crescendo, and there's just a bunch of naked people bowing down for this figurine statue,
disgusting statue
with Charlie's head on it.
Charlie's head is on this.
It's gross.
What do you call that? Like a figurine, or like what are those things in stores, like clothing stores? Mannequin kind of looking thing,
sort of.
And it's like brown wood, and then there's Charlie's head on it with a crown, and then you also see Annie's headless body and her mother's headless body, like bowing down kind of like to this statue.
And then there's a little picture frame of Ellen in like all white.
Yeah.
But she's got like a lot of makeup on.
Yeah.
And she's like, and it says Queen something, Queen Lay or Lee or something like that.
There's also a pigeon in a cage that's right to the right too. So for whatever reason, that pigeons mean something to them, or Payman or something.
Right.
The pigeon crashed into
the window.
Charlie
school.
cuts its head off. A lot of cutting heads off.
Big win for the cult.
Yeah,
they won.
They won.
They got it. Peter's not fazed by this, but we presume he's dead. The music's amazing, and it's just very overall just sick.
And then the zoom out is back into like almost like a children's dollhouse or whatever again, which they kept using throughout the movie, which is dope. I love that. It's black all around it except for that
the one thing that's like lit up.
Yeah.
Then the movie ends.
And no one wins except for the Colts.
And that's what we like. We like when no one wins, and it just used you, abused you, threw you in a garbage can, threw you in a cheese grater. You just come out feeling terrible. And then the one thing that I'll say is that, I guess you can call it a theme, is that I'm just so drawn to this, the possibility. And now this is what I think of like a lot of movies. The same with The Shining. The Shining set the precedent for a lot of this. None of this could have happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time.
They could still be all alive. And
they're imagining it. They're with their bipolar, schizophrenic,
all that
multiple personality. Like, who knows what's going on?
Yeah, because Steve spontaneously combusted. And I think that's only happened like once in human history.
And so the only thing that I could think of with that is maybe she somehow managed to pour like some of that kerosene on him or something, and like he just
I don't know. Yeah.
But then what's with the? Yeah, are they even seeing the naked cult people? Like, are they?
Are they
fake?
real? Yeah. Because going back to when Charlie's head pops off, because the deer on the road, it's just like, was that a coincidence? Because but we can assume that the cult is very articulate and they plan everything out. So like, did they plan that deer, or they were like, oh nice, because she wouldn't her head wouldn't have came off unless he swerved out of the way for the deer.
And the pole had the mark on it.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Or did it? Or are we seeing the point of view from someone who's sane or someone who's not sane when you see that mark? You know,
But that's great. But when we review The Lighthouse, that's another one where we're just like,
Midsummer, of course, too. Did that even happen?
yeah, because a lot of drug use.
Lighthouse, are they drunk?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, 100%. So you gave it a 9.7. I gave it a 9.4. Not much of a difference. It's in the nines, meaning it's incredible, which it is.
Incredible.
Yeah, we like when people don't win, and it was just insane. And it was, your favorite thing. The next morning, we were driving. We had a long drive, and I was staring out the window, not talking, just because I was just like, "What the hell was that? What did I just see?"
And then I've showed like multiple people. I have videos of my friends, like shout out Anthony Cardillo. I showed him, I think I want to say on Halloween, after going to a haunted house, after I dragged him through a haunted house. Now I also have to show him Hereditary, and I have a video, and he's just like, I don't feel good.
I don't like this.
I don't like this.
Well, what movie did we see with him?
Conjuring 3.
Yeah. He's just like, I don't want to be here. But he's just a great sport.
Yeah.
We'll have him on the pod for sure.
Yeah.
So I didn't write any themes down, but there's the theme of not dealing with trauma. There's religious themes. Do you want to look any up? Or could we just like figure it ones out on our own? Theme of grief, theme of there's a theme of family.
Trauma and abuse.
Right.
Complicated emotions. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we could talk about this movie for freaking hours.
Like, even just the title itself, like things getting passed down. Like, the scars of family we can't escape, whether that be mental illness or massive tragedy. So it just runs in their family.
The theme of interpretation, which is, I guess, is a theme, or just like, But this is what you want, right, guys? These are the movies that you want to see. This is what makes you love movies and horror. It's just like you're thinking about it, after, or even the day after, or days after, or you never get over it. Which, sorry, but it'll
Clearly
do that to you.
Yeah,
and no, we never will. You might not sleep. You probably won't sleep.
Because it doesn't feel like oh, my heart. Like, obviously your heart's racing, but like with a jump scare, your heart races and then you go back to normal.
And that's like a good feeling. That's like cool. It's like, yeah.
And then this one just like sticks with you. Like, it literally felt like I went through so many tragedies and traumas and everything while watching this movie. It's unbunbelievable. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it hits you hard.
Crazy how a movie could do that. And that's what just changed my whole perspective. And I was like, we need more stuff like this. Like, none of this bull crap where it's just like, whatever, jump scares and all that. Like, which, sometimes it could be fun just if you don't want to think too hard. But
and people are into that. They don't want to, they don't want to experience this stuff.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, and I don't mean to like hate on it, but sometimes like, you want to see like something that's quality. And this is
it's quality. It's up. It's one of the best. And I'm telling you, if you look at any articles, if you're just like, oh, I wonder what are the best horror movies of all time, or what are the best psychological horror movies of all time, or the best of the 2010s or something. This is 99%, most always in the top 5.
Yeah.
I've seen it number 1 on list. Beating out movies like Rosemary's Baby and The Shining and like Exorcist, Chainsaw Massacre, like these classic movies. And this is his debut film. He's had some shorts before that, but this is his debut film.
I watched one of his shorts.
We did.
Oh yeah. That was weird as hell.
I don't even want to talk about that.
So disturbing.
Freaking disturbing. He's good at it. Ari, you're good at it. And then the year after, he comes out with Midsummer, which we will review. So maybe we'll do that after. So yeah, our thoughts on the movie. We think it's great. We could talk about it for hours. There's just, so many themes, so much symbolism, but we pretty much covered it during the sequences of the movie. And I'm sure, we've already made references to it, and we will, throughout the other movies of the podcast. So yeah.
I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. That's Hereditary. And episode 5, What Are You Scared of Something? Stay tuned for our next episode. We don't know what we're watching, but that's the fun of it.
Good night, San Diego.
Good night.